I was hungry and asked in a trembling voice, "Could I please have a warm cup of coffee?" She looked at me for a moment, then nodded and replied, "Not just coffee. I'll give you some bread too. Please wait a moment." Sajin hurried to prepare the coffee and freshly baked bread, placing them in front of me. I couldn't help but admire her as I looked at the coffee and bread. There was a warmth in her demeanor that felt genuine. At that moment, I overheard whispers from the other customers in the cafe. They say there are no truly poor people among beggars these days. If you help them, it never ends. Shouldn't they be the ones to take care of their own food instead of wasting it? Their words were clear in my ears. I deliberately hunched my shoulders, accentuating my shabby appearance. I wondered how Sajin would react to this, but she never treated me unpleasantly. "Are you okay? Please have some warm food and warm up your body." Sajin focused only on me, completely ignoring the negative glances from others. I was deeply moved by her sincerity. That day, I decided to test her sincerity further. "Actually, I need to go to the hospital, but I don't have enough fare. Could you help me?" Sajin hesitated for a moment, then took out her wallet and handed me some cash. "It's not much, but I hope it helps you get to the hospital." I noticed that there wasn't much money left in her wallet. Though she wasn't wealthy, she was willing to share, and I felt a deep sense of warmth from her. A few days later, I decided to meet Sajin again, but this time without my disguise, dressed in a neat suit. When I entered the cafe, Sajin greeted me with her usual bright smile. She paused for a moment, looking at me thoughtfully, and then said in surprise, "Could it be that you are the elderly man who asked for coffee and bread that day?" I nodded and smiled. "Yes, I am that man." Sajin's face turned red with surprise. She seemed flustered and said, "Oh my, you were the chairman. I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you. Was I too much?" I gently stopped her and replied, "No need to apologize, Sajin. The truth is, I came here in disguise to test your sincerity. And now I'm sure you're truly a warm and genuine person." Sajin bowed her head, tears welling in her eyes. I patted her shoulder and continued, "Sajin, if someone like you becomes my son's spouse, it would bring me the greatest joy." From that day on, the wedding day approached. The ceremony hall gleamed in the sunlight, filled with an atmosphere of blessing. I felt happiness as I watched my son, Junhyuk, and his new wife, Sajin, together. During my speech at the wedding, I jokingly said, "But if Junhyuk ever makes Sajin upset, I'll disguise myself as a beggar again and show up." The guests burst into laughter, and the wedding hall was filled with a warm atmosphere. I continued, "Sajin, I can't tell you how happy I am that someone like you is becoming part of our family. I sincerely hope you two will build a warm and happy family, respecting each other." Amid the applause, I smiled as I looked at my son and daughter-in-law. Their faces were full of love and happiness. After the wedding, I felt deeply moved as I exchanged greetings with Sajin's parents. As the days passed after the wedding, Sajin and Junhyuk began their life together. They faced challenges as all couples do, but their love and respect for each other only grew stronger. Sajin was always a kind-hearted and thoughtful person, and Junhyuk, who had once been a bit carefree, began to change for the better under her influence. One evening, I received a call from Junhyuk. His voice sounded urgent, yet there was an underlying sense of excitement. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something important." I met with him at a quiet cafe. He looked a bit nervous but couldn't hide the smile on his face. "Dad, I want to ask for your blessing," he said, his voice a little shaky. "Sajin and we've been thinking about starting a family." I was taken aback at first, but then a wave of joy washed over me. I smiled broadly, placing my hand on his shoulder. "You've made the right choice, Junhyuk. Sajin is a wonderful woman, and she will be an amazing mother." He looked relieved and happy, and we spent the next hour talking about their plans for the future. The thought of becoming a grandfather filled me with a new sense of purpose and excitement. The family I had once dreamed of for my son was finally taking shape. A few months later, Sajin and Junhyuk welcomed their first child, a beautiful baby girl. As I held my granddaughter in my arms, I felt the full circle of life come to fruition. It was a moment of pure happiness, And I couldn't help but think of the journey that had brought us here, from the humble coffee request to this precious moment of new beginnings. As I looked at Sajin, who was cradling her daughter lovingly, I whispered to myself, "You were truly the right choice, Sajin." The family was more united than ever, and I couldn't help but feel incredibly grateful for the love and warmth that had blossomed in our lives. I knew that no matter what challenges came their way, they would always have each other. And that was the greatest gift of all. Years passed, and Junhyuk and Sajin's family continued to grow stronger. Their daughter, Minji, blossomed into a bright, curious young girl, full of energy and questions about the world. As she grew older, she inherited both her mother's kindness and her father's quick wit. It wasn't long before she became the center of our family gatherings, bringing joy and laughter with her every little quirk. One afternoon, I was sitting in my favorite chair, enjoying a cup of tea, when Junhyuk came to visit. He looked more serious than usual, and there was a slight hesitation in his steps as he approached me. "Dad," he began, "there's something I need to tell you about the company." My heart skipped a beat. Junhyuk had always been the natural heir to the business, and I knew that sooner or later, I would need to pass the baton to him. But hearing him bring it up now made the reality of that transition seem imminent. "Is everything all right?" I asked, trying to hide the worry in my voice. He sat down across from me, his expression pensive. "It's not that there's a problem, Dad. I've been thinking a lot about the direction of the company. I want to make some changes, modernize the way we operate, and bring in fresh perspectives." I nodded thoughtfully. I had always believed in Junhyuk's ability to lead, and his desire to innovate made sense. But a part of me felt the weight of tradition, the years of hard work that had gone into building the company. It was hard to let go of the old ways. "You know that I trust you completely," I said, "and if you believe these changes will help the company grow, then I support you." Junhyuk smiled, grateful for my understanding. "I've been talking to Sajin about it. We both agree that the company needs a more forward-thinking approach. But I wanted to get your blessing first." I reached across the table and patted his hand. "You have it, Junhyuk. I've watched you grow into a wise, compassionate leader. Now it's time for you to step into your role fully and make the changes that are right for you, for Sajin, and for Minji." It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that the company I had built would soon be in the hands of my son. But as I looked at him, I realized how much he had grown, both as a businessman and as a person. And I knew that Sajin would be by his side, supporting him just as she always had. A few months later, the company underwent a transformation. Junhyuk introduced new technologies, streamlined operations, and fostered an environment of collaboration that was more inclusive of younger voices. His leadership, backed by Sajin's steady presence and vision, took the company to new heights. As a father, I couldn't have been prouder. One evening, as the family gathered at our home for a quiet dinner, Junhyuk raised a glass. "To family," he said, looking at Sajin, Minji, and me, "and to the legacy we're building together. I couldn't have done it without you." I felt a deep sense of contentment, knowing that everything I had worked for, everything I had hoped for, was coming to fruition. The company was thriving, and more importantly, our family was thriving. We had come so far from the days of doubt and uncertainty, and now, with each passing year, I could see the true strength of the bond we shared. As I looked around the table, I knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more moments of growth, but one thing was certain: we would face them together as a family. And for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace,